thought I'd try out this live thing on YouTube. I haven't done this yet. It used to be you had to have 1,000 fucking subscribers before you could go live from your phone. So shit has changed, I guess. But I thought I'd do a little Greenwich Village poetry tour for all my followers out there. Obnoxious. Because I'm just out here, I'm filming shit anyway. I've been wanting to try out this live thing. So first stop, this is the Taco Mahal. We're on 7th Avenue South here on Barrow Street. Here in the greatest fucking place in the world, the G-spot of planet Earth, Greenwich Village. Or maybe it's the third eye, or maybe it's the 6th eye, or the 12th parallel vertical. Okay, so this is the Taco Mahal right here over my... This was a place called the Limelight, which was I think it was a gallery. It was like a photography gallery. And if anybody's seen A Christmas Story with Gene Shepard, the famous holiday classic that they show for 24 hours every Christmas on... I think I just dropped some boxes. Turner Broadcasting Systems. Gene Shepard is like the voice and the mind behind A Christmas Story, so you're welcome. Anyway, he was on the radio, WOR in New York, and he would do these kind of extemporaneous, they're like storytelling. He's a lot like Spalding Gray. He was like sort of a pre-Spalding Gray, where he would have characters, and it's a lot like the movie, The Bumpus Hounds and all that shit, but he talks about all kinds of stuff. He was sort of a beatnik figure. He was in the Village in the 50s, and he was into jazz. He did an album with Charles Mingus. So he's a hip guy, and I think he used oral kind of extemporaneous. He was on the radio in New York City, AM, WOR, every night, I think, for like an hour, where he would just talk about, and he'd tell stories or just talk about, there's one episode that's really interesting. It's on YouTube, and it's live from this place right here, actually. He went on tour with the Beatles. Like before they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, I think, like in '63, he went on tour with the Beatles when they were sort of this phenomenon that people had heard about. And he didn't even know their individual names. He's calling them all Beatle and shit. And so anyway, it's an interesting episode hearing him talk about his time on tour with the Beatles, hearing his side of things before they got famous. And he did that broadcast from right here. So he'd do live broadcasts, I guess, from this place. It wasn't the Taco Mahal then, it was the Limelight Gallery. And I wonder if you can even hear me. He would do live shows from this place where he would do his storytelling kind of spiel, core, whatever the fuck. Jazz influenced, improv, kind of riffing. Blowing, he was friends with Jack Kerouac. He did a radio show, it's on YouTube, of him talking about Jack Kerouac when he died. He was kind of from that era. He's sort of a beat figure, even though he's also this weird kind of pop culture phenomenon. He was, like I said, he's sort of like a Spalding Gray, or like, I think he wanted to be just an actor. He wanted to be in Broadway plays and shit. I don't think he really liked being on the radio. But his look, I guess the people at Limelight who hosted the shows did not really like having him there. His fans were like weird. If you read Donald Fagen from Steely Dan had an essay book that came out a few years ago. Or is it? Yeah, I think it's Donald Fagen. There's an essay in there about Gene Shepard. How Donald Fagen grew up listening to Gene Shepard on the radio in whatever, New Jersey or upstate or wherever he's from, Long Island. People in this region remember. Whereas everybody, in Ohio, we know him from Christmas Story, which is a masterpiece. But in his essay, Donald Fagen kind of has... He talks about when he saw Gene Shepard live, because occasionally Gene Shepard would do live, like he'd play Princeton once a year. He'd play like the auditorium there. And apparently, I mean, if you watch, there's some of his live shit on YouTube, it's kind of weird. It's kind of awkward. He's got kind of a weird, you can tell why he's on the radio. Because he's just kind of like a gnarly fucking dude. And you can tell he doesn't perform live that often. Because he's like just kind of weird and kind of creepy in a way. So anyway, now it's the Taco Mahal. But that was the Limelight. That's where Gene Shepherd rocked the house. This is my Greenwich, you're watching the Greenwich Village Poetry Tour. Hosted by Matt Proctor. Renowned poetry expert, history of poetry, outrider poetry. So we're walking down, I guess this is Barrow Street. Fuck. I don't know. I'm just trying out my goddamn YouTube and shit. No one's watching. That's okay. I've got a premiere going at the same time. Can I flip the camera around? Let me flip it. I've got a premiere going at the same time, so I don't even have enough viewers to support one of those things, let alone two. Is my microphone on? I hope so. Just winging it here. But, I mean, it's just beautiful. Greenwich Village, you know. I've been wanting to go live from my phone for a while and see what that experience is like, so it's fucking dope so far, I gotta say. And this is just the most beautiful neighborhood on earth, so I just want to share it with everybody, like I'm Action Kid. Shout out to Action Kid. I guess I need a stabilizer or something, some kind of gimbal. I do have important, I mean, everything in my life is important, and I'm procrastinating, and could get ugly. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, folks. I'd like to have a one-man show at Cherry Lane Theater. That's one of my goals in life. They're doing a tour right there. I don't know what the fuck they're going to see, the Friends apartment or what, but we're going to see Edna St. Vincent Millay's house here on Little Bedford Street. One of the most beautiful streets in the world, no doubt. Hopefully this records and just saves. Howard, you bang her? I've been watching tons of Howard. If you're out there, you gotta watch some Howard. You bang her? Are you banging? Okay, so this was Edna St. Vincent Millay's house right here. This little half. It was for sale. Maybe somebody bought it. I think it was like $12 million. But it's only like 6 feet wide or something. And Cary Grant lived there among... You know, Edna St. Vincent Millay didn't even live there that long. Maybe like a few years. But she was in plays around the corner here at the Cherry Lane Theater when she lived there. She was kind of the toast of downtown. She was this amazing genius poet, kind of artist, just like, you know, magical person. Her and her sisters grew up in rural Maine someplace. And they just wrote poetry and danced and fucking, you know, made paintings and shit their whole lives out in the woods. These beautiful sisters, you know. Okay, so we got this beautiful future going on. New York Times critics pick. Cool. Well, at least there's something contemporary in there. Fragile and wondrous. I doubt it. So they're doing a tour. This is Cherry Lane Theater. They did the premiere of True West here. Maybe it wasn't a premiere, I don't know. Does anybody give a fuck? Here, let's just listen to what they're saying.
Does anyone know the difference between a Broadway and a...
Oldest continuous running off-Broadway theater, she says.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go up Hudson. Yeah, my dream is to have a one-person show in the Cherry Lane Theater. That's my ultimate cherry on top. I mean, I'd like to have a career, you know. I hope maybe some filmmakers see that. Maybe the Safdie brothers. Noah Baumbach should cast me, I think. I could, you know, they need an undiscovered face. And I think I've got a lot of potential. I need to get into it. Okay, so I do want to talk about this. I watch these really interesting movies last night of this director who I'm sort of aware of, but I never really watched that many of his films. Although the films of his I've seen, I love, so I don't know why I didn't look more into him sooner, but it's Paul Mazursky, which as a kid I remember seeing Down and Out in Beverly Hills and Moon Over Parador with Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss is in both movies. Marion Moore lived in one of these fucking apartments right here. Poet Marion Moore with the tricornered hat. She was a librarian at the fucking Hudson Park branch right over here on that little nice street that bends. She was a librarian. She could afford to live in this fucking townhouse with her mother. Can you imagine? They probably get paid $10 an hour, if that. Pretty cool public artwork going on there. So yeah, there's the Friends house right there. That's the Friends building. That's the Friends apartment building. We're not going to go there. We're not going there. Don't even ask. All the people out there watching, don't even fucking ask me. I don't know why people don't watch. I think it's a conspiracy. I think I'm a lot more entertaining than Timcast or whatever the fuck that guy's name is. People should want to know about the poets of the West Village. Coming up on Christopher Street, one of the best streets in New York. Where Path Cafe used to be. There used to be a great open mic there. 10 fucking years ago. Okay, so Down and Out in Beverly Hills and Moon Over Parador is fucking hilarious too. Although I haven't seen that in a long time. I had no idea Paul Mazursky, first of all, had made as many fucking movies as he's made. Like, my arm's getting tired. Here we are in the patio district. Down on Hudson, this beautiful. It's usually a line to get in here. Look at all the fabulous elites. That's the 1%. So the most beautiful, richest people on earth. So, you know, when nuclear winter happens, they will reproduce and repopulate and will be eliminated. Anyone who's less than 6 feet tall, who makes less than $200,000 a year will just die. And that's, you know, that's how it should be. That's nature. It's survival of the fittest. And we are the ultimate fittest. Nothing's going to stop us. You know, fuck the weak people. Fuck the weak people. You hear me? They're on their own. So here we are on Hudson. This is Cowgirl Seahorse. One of the few magical places left. Paul Mazursky has, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, Harry and Tonto. There's the one called An Unmarried Woman. Enemies, a Love Story, Moscow on the Hudson. It's just crazy how many fucking movies this guy has made. And a lot of them are like kind of cultural touchstones, or like, sorry, I'm walking through, I'm like holding a fucking thing and trying to do this and smoke all at the same time. It's kind of ridiculous. But the movies the ones I watched last night, this movie, Next Stop Greenwich Village, I'd wanted to see for a while, but it's just not really available on any of the streaming shit. YouTube, of course, didn't have it. And then, this other movie, Willie and Phil, I'd never even heard of. It's kind of obscure, I think. It's like a remake of Jules et Jim. And it's an interesting film. His movies, I think he's like a Woody Allen almost. He's like making like a smart adult films for an audience that like existed at that time that wanted that. Like, you know, Down and Out in Beverly Hills. My dad always liked that movie. You know, it's like, it's sort of a hip movie. It's almost like a Woody Allen movie, but it's not quite that pronounced. You know, like Paul Mazursky, I would say is like an auteur, and you can see he's got kind of the 60s influences. You can see he probably did acid, and like he was friends with Fellini, I guess. He was in Kubrick's first film. He's in whatever the fuck it's called, Killer's Kiss or whatever. And that was in 1953. So this movie, and just he just had an interesting kind of career. Okay, here's the White Horse Tavern. This is where you know, there's just tons of literary shit that's happened here. Dylan Thomas drank himself to death famously here. Now it's just a bunch of fucking ass wipes. But there it is, you know, famous. Maps to the Stars. Matt Proctor's fucking West Village poetry tour continues. I should be a tour guide. If I could do that for a job, I'd do that. I see these double-decker buses, that, you know, like the tourist buses, driving around. They're always super late at night. Maybe people are embarrassed to go on them during the day. Maybe it's too hot. But they're always driving around super late at night. And they're packed. The roofs of these buses are usually at least half full. Probably 60% full. 70% full. It's like, they're pretty popular considering how people like to shit all over like any kind of tourist anything. And like, they always look like, just like, they're just regular passengers. They look like they're just taking a regular bus. Their faces are kind of like, this is one of my favorite places in New York. It's this Bleecker Park. We'll just sit for a minute. I'll live stream from Bleecker Park while I smoke. You've seen it in the show many times. This is the behind the scenes. This is what it looks like, the actual experience of me walking around, smoking weed, sitting in parks. My whole show is just me about sitting in parks, smoking weed. Sitting in this park, mostly. I had the reading in Elizabeth Street Garden today. This is the Marc Jacobs Bookstore, another famous poetry landmark. Hart Crane used to go there. Hart Crane at the Marc Jacobs Bookstore, bookmark. I'm surprised they're hanging in there. All the other Marc Jacobs places have split a long time ago. I do need to go back and do this fucking application. I probably won't be able to finish it. So I do want to talk about these fucking movies. Next Stop, Greenwich Village. Christopher Walken's in it. He plays a poet. Incredible. It's really, they made an excellent double feature. If you can watch them back to back, watch Next Stop, Greenwich Village, and then watch Willie and Phil. They're both West Village movies, but they're a little different. They're different approaches. Next Stop, Greenwich Village is kind of a nostalgia piece, sort of like parts of Woody Allen, but it's not that screwball. It doesn't go that zany. It's more, I don't know. The thing that I thought they really got right about it was like the period. There's smart stuff in it. Like, it's a smart movie. It doesn't overdo it with that. Like, it's just kind of like, the layers are deep on it, but like the story is pretty simple and it's pretty laid out pretty simply. It's kind of corny. There's aspects of it that haven't aged super well. The lead character in particular is not really that funny, and he thinks he's really funny. But as far as like there's a scene like at a party, the music, they use all this Dave Brubeck music and all this other stuff that's just like perfect for it. Like, they really get the tone. I mean, not that I was there or anything, but like the party scene in particular, like really felt like the pictures and stuff that I'd seen, those like Fred McDarrah pictures of like, you know, from the Beat Scene book. It felt like, or the party scene in Shadows, in the Cassavetes movie. It felt a lot like the party scenes in that movie, which were shot in the 50s, so I have to assume that they're relatively accurate. a lot of people compared it to Amarcord. It has like a little bit of an Amarcord quality, like a Fellini kind of nostalgia, tale of youth. I also watched Mean Streets. I was just trying to get different filmmakers' kind of views of New York. And Mean Streets is like, it's one of my favorite movies. It's like a cast. I mean, I didn't really realize how much Scorsese is doing Cassavetes, really. He's really imitating Cassavetes a lot. Except he's got these Italian-American kind of mob characters that he's able to take the masculinity to interesting places because of those guys. Cassavetes wasn't... some of his movies touch on that stuff, but... not that I've seen a lot of his movies, but I'm just sort of starting to discover... I mean, Shadows, that was definitely the best movie I'd say I'd seen this year. But I love these movies I saw yesterday, too. Next Stop, Greenwich Village. I mean, it wasn't perfect. Like, it's a good... like the DiCaprio movie about Rambo. Like, it's a good visualization of what that time was like. Like, a lot of it was shot at Cafe Reggio. So it's another one of these things that, like, I just decided to watch. I don't know. Last night I felt like watching a movie for some reason. And so I flipped it on and, like, it was on YouTube, which they just added a few months ago. And so it's up there now, the whole movie. They had, like, a foreign language version before that you couldn't even, but... it really, like, the night before I watched it, I was hanging out with these guys at Cafe Reggio. I have a clip of it. And then, so I'm watching the movie the next day. I'm like, holy shit, It's one of those things where it's almost like talking to you like a ghost or something. The apartment that they live in the movie is right across the street from Cafe Reggio. So I kind of was checking that out today. And then today, after the reading, I was hanging out with Tony and talking with him for a while. And then we just started walking through Soho. We went to this little park on Spring Street. And next thing you know, I'm on Cleveland Place. And I was on this website yesterday looking at Mean Streets filming locations. And the bar in Mean Streets is 23 Cleveland Place. So I went over there to just kind of check it out. It's that really beautiful square in Soho where, like, Lafayette runs into, like, Center Street. And that old police station with the dome is down there. That's where fucking they lived. That was Scorsese's fucking, like, where he went to high school and shit. So I was just trying to get kind of the atmosphere and see I didn't even know this Willie and Phil movie existed. I got on, so after I watched Next Stop, Greenwich Village, which was it was a lot like Reds in certain ways. It would have been a good companion with that movie as sort of a portrait of the West Village. But Walken in particular is a pretty good, like, poet character. He's like a classic kind of Greenwich Village, like, highbrow Pound Elliott. He has this great scene where he's talking about, what do you think of Dylan Thomas? Actors should read. Oh, I will say about Next Stop Greenwich Village, it probably has one of the, if not the best scene in, like, an acting class I've ever seen. There's a scene right in the middle of the movie where I guess the guy's supposed to be Herbert Berghoff, who has an acting studio over here. And I don't know who the actor is that plays him, but, like, it's just a very compelling scene about theater and acting and stuff. It's just like this kind of really interesting kind of old school village character holding forth about theater and theories about acting and shit. It's really a good scene about, and it's in an acting studio, so they probably shot it at the HB studio, I don't know. I'd like to take classes there. That's one of my goals. One of the things that frustrated me about this fucking movie is it's all about this character's, like, it's like a rite of passage movie or a coming of age movie where, like, he moves away from home to Greenwich Village, but, like, his home is like Brownsville, It's like 45 minutes on the train, an hour on the train. It's not like he's coming 500 miles or across the world or something. But they act like it's like, whoa, he's leaving home and he's so far away from his parents and all this shit. And it's like, he gets into some acting classes, and he like gets a part in a fucking movie. You know, it's like, how long did he even live there? I don't know, probably a couple years or something, but I don't know. It seems like things can happen fast if you get in the right places. And that was kind of what was frustrating when I was watching. I was just like, man, I'm just not being seen by the right people. And so then I watched this movie. It's a good visual record of the time, I feel like. In the apartments, that's basically why I was watching it. I was just trying to see the B-roll. I was trying to see if I recognized in the locations. I was trying to see how they used the Greenwich Village. I was trying to see how they filmed it to make it look like some kind of bohemian fairy tale or romance or whatever the movie is supposed to be. And to be honest, they did an okay job. I'm sure their hands were tied a little bit because of period stuff, but like, I don't know. To me, the Mikey or Willie and Phil movie was better filmed. That Sven Nykvist was the fucking cinematographer. That may have been the reason why. I'm sure it was. But it had a whole. It looks like it's like a remake of Jules et Jim. So it's like fucking that movie with Richard Gere. They like remade Breathless with Richard Gere. You know, in like the fucking early '80s. So I guess Hollywood was just down to like remake French New Wave stuff. And to be honest, it's not exactly copying it, but like it's pretty close. As far as it being like an American retelling, it's about as spot on as you'd expect them to be. And that movie, I don't know. I think what was missing, it's the guy from fucking Twin Peaks. So the Jules et Jim is Harry S. Truman from Twin Peaks. And this other guy who's kind of a despicable, he is a despicable character in real life, Ray Sharkey. Read about him. It's fucked up. And then Margot Kidder is like the Jean Moreau. And I gotta say, like, Margot Kidder is pretty, like, compelling and, like, magnetic and all that, but, like, Jean Moreau is, like, you know, there's not, I can't even name a movie that Margot Kidder is in other than Superman, to be honest. Like, nothing against Margot Kidder, but, like, it's an interesting movie. It's like, it's a sophisticated adult movie. It's about sex, and, like, they're in this relationship, this three-way relationship, and this and that, and, like, it was filmed around here. It starts in the Bleecker Street Cinema, so they're walking on Bleecker. The last shot in the movie is them walking on Bleecker, and then they turn right, like, in front of Red Lion, where Red Lion is now, and they go down, whatever that is, Sullivan or Thompson, and then the arch is in the background. I should probably get going. It's a good fucking movie. It's kind of simple and easy to watch and nice to watch. But it's telling, like, a fucking adult story, and, like, it's funny. He's got a thing with his mom that's kind of annoying. Like, Shelley Winters is in Next Stop Greenwich Village, and both movies have kind of, like, an overbearing Jewish mother character, which I guess is, like, probably a trope, but, the movies have things like that in them. That, like, they're male and they're kind of old paradigm in certain ways. Like Woody Allen movies. They're not that bad, but, like, it's amazing to watch these movies and think about all the fucking movies that Mazursky did make. He made a lot of movies. And his movies were successful, to be honest, somewhat commercially. It's amazing to think that, like, that just even existed in American Hollywood movies. Like, his movies are not, there's no explosions, there's no guns, there's no, big action heroes or any of that kind of shit. it's really about the characters. Next Stop Greenwich Village had kind of a Jules Pfeiffer quality. These characters sitting around a table and just the dialogue. It simplifies everything and makes it into like a movie version, but it was a pretty good, I gotta say. It was a pretty good, I'm surprised there aren't more movies that are telling that story, that kind of romantic, like move to Greenwich Village, be with the poets, dancers, artists, whatever. It doesn't go overboard with that. There's kind of a James Baldwin character that's like a really good character. But like they don't really go overboard with the characters being artists. He's an actor, the one guy's a poet, that's about it. There's a Franz Klein painting in the movie, which I thought was kind of interesting and smart thing. Like you can tell he's hip, he was there. He got what was going on, but then he kind of went this way and like became this kind of pop culture filmmaker. He's sort of like, if there was an American New Wave, and it's Dennis Hopper and all those movies, fucking The Godfather, Scorsese, George Lucas, Spielberg, Terrence Malick, whatever, whatever that was, 60s, 70s, Arthur Hill, or whatever, Bonnie and Clyde, Elaine May, definitely. I would say Paul Mazursky. I want to see more of his films now. I'm like, they aren't like the heaviest thing I've ever seen. They're not like the most demanding thing. But that's kind of what's nice about them. Is they're like, it's kind of, this movie is not like just hackneyed. It's not just a bunch of like caricatures and bullshit. Like it's a pretty smart, it's like a Nora Ephron movie or something. It's like, it's good. Like it's smart, it's entertaining. It's not fucking, 8.5 or Vivre sa vie or anything. Or La Chinoise. It's not like some situationist fucking movie or something. But for a movie that's pretty easy to watch, it could probably be on cable. It's pretty fucking smart and good, there's depth to it, there's layers to it. He was friends with Fellini. The Willie and Phil movie looked more like an 80s movie. The way they shot Washington Square. So where they meet the Jean Moreau character, her name is Jeanette in the movie, is in Washington Square. I gotta say, between the two movies, he shot an interesting kind of array of Greenwich Village. But I gotta say, he basically just stayed over by Washington Square. He really only shot on McDougal Street, practically. And then in the other movie on Bleecker and in Washington Square, it's like, Greenwich Village is way bigger. Like, to me, the more interesting parts of the village are like West 4th Street, Perry Street, Hudson, going over to the river, like it's, the White Horse Tavern. Minette Lane is in it, but, there's tons. Cornelia Street, Bleecker, like there's so many different fucking streets that are like part of the charm and the legend. And like, if you're gonna have a movie called Next Stop Greenwich Village, like, you better make the ultimate fucking like portrait of that place. And to be honest, it seemed like they really only shot in McDougal Street for that movie, which I was really kind of, I mean, it's a great street. It's my favorite street probably, but like, it's not, there's a lot more Gay Street, I don't know if they couldn't get permits or what, but To me, if they could make a movie like that La Vie Boheme movie with that Akis Kaurismäki movie that he made in Paris, that movie's incredible. I think that's also on YouTube. If they could make that movie in Greenwich Village, in the West Village, that's the movie I would watch. Alright, so now I'm walking north. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I'd say that was pretty successful. I'm sweating and shit. I'm sweating like a pig. That was a pretty successful Poets Walking Tour of Greenwich Village, I gotta say. For a first edition, I think we got some nice stuff in. We talked about Gene Shepard. We talked about Edna St. Vincent Millay. Cherry Lane Theater, where they premiered True West. James Dean's been on stage at the Cherry Lane Theater. John Ashbery and Frank O'Hara been in plays there. They may have even done their own plays there. I don't know. We live in a kind of a different world now, but there's still opportunities. I feel like there are opportunities for young people here in weird ways. It's not just like when I first came to New York about a decade ago, it was like Richard Dreyfuss was in a fucking play at the Cherry Lane Theater. It was like there weren't really some kind of cutting edge thing going on there. It was like just some kind of whatever old kind of milquetoast thing. So I'm walking up 8th Avenue. I did the reading today in Elizabeth Street Garden. It was great. Kind of a blast. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. This is the Google building right here. Speaking of poetry, there's the Google building. That's where they're, God knows what the fuck they're doing in there. They're recording this. This is going on to some kind of server somewhere that is probably, who knows what the fuck is even in this building. Like, a lot of their employees probably work remotely. I don't even know what the fuck they do in there. I don't even want to know. They have too much power. I see all their employees in my neighborhood. They're just like the perfect young people who are everywhere. Selling their souls, selling our information. It's about information, Marty. I'll be signing off here quickly. That girl probably works for Google. She's fucking fine. Should I use this Wi-Fi subset here? Maybe I should go talk to her. What do you think? I'm on my live. Can I ask you a question? Is this weird? Is this weird that I'm live streaming myself procrastinating whether or not? I guess it is. Well, I feel good about it. We're about to go home. I gotta fill out this fucking application. Okay, well, we're doing our best, trying to kick ass out here. And walking the earth, spreading poetry, reciting poetry. I read my poem. Well, okay, so the theme today was muse. And I have this poem in my X-rated Frankly Fabulous chapbook called Fucking the Muse. Which is just a provocative title. And it's really part of my, it's like I did a series of like sketches of like girls that I had dated or whatever. A series of poems. A sequence. A serial poem. And this one is about this girl who I knew who was a poet, who was kind of my first muse in a way, as far as writing. I mean, at least like she read my poetry and she liked it. She thought it was like, she loved it. She said I was a creative genius. So I wrote this poem that was about our experience and how we met and this and that. And I wrote it, probably 10 years ago. But it's the only poem. I don't talk about the muse. I probably should write. I've thought about it. I thought about writing a poem to the muse recently. Like an invocation to the muse. It's something like Homer always does, right? Not a bad idea. Sing in me, O muse. Not a bad idea. It's also not a bad way to just tune up, maybe. You can blame it on the muse. Oh, during this muse part, I'm like figuring out what the fuck I'm doing. I can balance myself energetically while I talk about the fucking muse. And if I fuck up, I'll blame it on them. Oh, it's the muse. I'm just tuning. I'm tuning up energetically. But anyway, I don't have a fucking poem. Is it done? Okay. But it has the end of it. I have this line where I say, "My cum in her mouth," which is a metaphor. It's a sexual metaphor. But I'm at Elizabeth Street Garden, and I don't want them to cancel me. I like reading, so I don't want to offend anybody. So I was a little bit too cautious, I think. And so I went up third. These first two people went up, and then no one was going up. Literally, it was it had been a minute of just dead silence, and no one was going up to read. So I just thought, fuck, okay, I'll just go up. And I wasn't really that ready. I felt not that nervous, and I felt let me just do it. No one else is going. Let me just break the ice here. And so I went up, and to be honest, I almost blanked. I got up there, and I was I sort of was going through in my head real fast, what I had planned to say, and I was I can't fucking say this. Because it was all about, I had watched this Cassavetes video earlier, where he's never censor yourself or something. He's you can't censor yourself. It's bad for the artist, it's the death of the artist. So I was well, I'm not going to censor myself. I'm going to say this line about my cum in her mouth. And so I get up there, and I'm I can't say all this shit about Cassavetes, And I don't know. They have a theme. The theme was the muse. That's why I decided to read the piece. And so